Hi there, and welcome to the first module in doing your tax return. So this is your self-assessment tax return, and it is for the 2017-18 tax year. Of course, a lot of it is probably going to be the same for prior years and maybe even future years. So, who am I? Well, I'm Louise Harrington, and I run Performance Accountancy. So I'm a small practitioner, but I did come from a large corporate background and also a large practice as I trained at Price Waterhouse. I am a chartered accountant, and due to my age, I am a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. So I set up my practice specifically to deal with performers. So musicians, actors, singers, dancers, and people in the background of theatre, film, entertainment, you name it, anything in that kind of arts and entertainment area, I then look at. Now, I did train on the NAC programme with the English National Opera, and I trained as a dramatic soprano. So if you hear a big hissy fit, you'll know that's me. Plus, I'm also a member of Equity, so I think I'm neatly placed in this market for knowing exactly how actors and musicians and singers work, and also with the finance background to know what I'm talking about. I do actually teach sometimes at various colleges and conservatoires, and I do the professional development days for several of those for the final year graduates. So hopefully, if any of you are watching this, you might recognise some of this. So, where to start? Okay. Hopefully, you will have actually logged in and created your own government gateway account or personal tax account. If you've done that and you've activated it for being self-employed with the self-assessment tax return, you'll be able to go to this website and you'll be able to log into your account. And this is what you see. So I have disguised my user ID, although you wouldn't be able to guess the password from there. But you go to that website and then you click to sign in. There are various options. If you've forgotten your user ID or if you've forgotten your password, you'll be able to click on those links and they'll be able to help. Now, they have put in the last few years two-step verification. I loathe this because quite often I can't find my mobile phone. But anyway, this is what we've got. So as part of the two-step process, you log in with your username and ID, and then HMRC will send a message to your mobile phone and it will give you an access code. Now, I always tick the button to say remember it for 7 days so I don't have to find my phone if I go and update my tax return. If you haven't set this, you should be able to set this on your first login. And then it really annoys me. It then says, do you want to set a backup? No, I really can't be bothered. I don't want you to have any more access to any more sort of apps or email addresses or other phones. So I always skip that part and it reminds me that I haven't set it and I'll go back to it the next time. So, and this is what you're faced with when you first enter your account. There's a lot more underneath. Now, all the way through this presentation, I have removed people's names and figures and all their details about their addresses, how much tax they've owed, etc. It's one way to protect the innocent or not so innocent. But this is my front screen, although I've got rid of my UTR. So what you'll be able to do is go to this screen and then complete your self-assessment tax return. So click on that big green button and we get started. It then says, oh, are you really sure you want to do this? And just have a check that you don't have any of those items in the red box. It shouldn't affect many of you. In fact, it might not affect any of you. I do have a couple of ministers of religion, so we have to file differently. Or if you are non-resident and non-domiciled in the UK, then I can't help you because I don't really do much about that. So that's it. So the green box are all those people that can fill up the return, and that is about 99% of my clients. All right, so click start. And this is what you'll look at. It will give you a summary of you know, what you've got coming up for payment, if you've overpaid. This is actually my agent view, so that's why you see a bit more down there about maintaining clients, etc. But you'll have the same top level, so file a return. So basically click on file a return. Now, it then asks some questions. Most of this is pre-filled. As I said, I've taken out all the things that relate to clients or myself, so you can't really see who it is. So you'll see the name, the last name, that's normally pre-filled. The unique tax reference number, the national insurance number will be pre-filled, and it will also have your address in there. So this is the address that HMRC has for you. But of course, you might decide, oh, I've actually moved from this address here, and you've got a new address. So you'll be able to click on this box and you'll be able to amend the address. But remember to always then tick the box to say use this address in the future. Moving down, you've got taxpayer status. This is a list of your countries that you belong to, and for everyone really, it's going to be taxpayer status UK. Your date of birth is required. And then you get one called marital status. Now, it doesn't have a red asterisk by it, so you do not have to enter it. It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't click through to the marriage transfer allowance or anything like that. It's just really an information screen. Now, I use it in my data collection process because then I can nudge you for things like the marriage transfer allowance, the child benefit, etc. So date of birth, I hope you know. Are you or your spouse blind? And then as you scroll down a bit, it then comes over to this bit here, which is highly important if you have a student loan. Now, a lot of times they do tend to get it right. They tend to know who does have student loans because it's linked to the student loan company, and they tend to put in now the right plan that you're on. But just check it anyway. Moving on to next, we then come up with, okay, I want you to tell us what kind of income you have. So on a lot of people's tax return now, you get this top button here that says, I commit to being honest and accurate information is in the return. So you do have to tick that, otherwise you're not going anywhere. So these are our income sources. Are you an employee? Well, that's if you have a normal job. So a standard sort of 9 to 5 or bar work. That's when you are paid PAYE and your employer pays you on a weekly, fortnightly or monthly basis and gives you a pay slip. So if you do that, you'd click yes, and then the next button after that would want you to put in who was the employer. It then comes down to the self-employed part. Now, hopefully, if you're filling in your tax return, you have actually told HMRC you are self-employed. That's highly important for the Class 2 national insurance. Now, there's a new bit in here. Normally, you'd just tick if you are self-employed, yes. But for 2017-18, there is a small trader allowance that's come in. So if your turnover from all your self-employment is no more than £1,000, you can claim relief on it. So this is now asking, is your turnover more than £1,000? So if it was, click yes. Were you in an official partnership? And this is an official partnership that HMRC recognises. If you were, click yes, otherwise click no. Land and property. This is if you rent your property out, so you might have a second property you rent either as a holiday home or it's just rent on a normal basis, or even if you have a lodger and you do the rent a room scheme. So if you do have rental income above £1,000, then click yes. Again, we have another £1,000 and there is a new small property earnings allowance if you only have rental income of £1,000 or less, it doesn't have to go into your tax return. If you received foreign income, this needs to be yes. Foreign income is normally a case of if you were self-employed and let's say you've gone into Germany to sing at an opera house in Germany, then any income you receive in there would be classed as foreign income. It is still taxed as part of the UK tax system, but potentially if you've had withholding tax withheld from you, then this is where you can tell HMRC that you have had the withholding tax and you'll be able to start offsetting that. Finally, this page is if you've sold any assets, so assets in terms of a rental property, investments like oil paintings, stocks and shares, potentially you might have a capital gains tax to account for. Once you've completed all that, most of it's probably going to be no, press next. And then we get even more questions. As you'll see, this is page 2 of 3. Did you receive any interest? Normally it's from banks or building societies, but if you have claimed PPI, then you will have received interest on the monies that you paid out, and therefore that is taxable interest, and you tick yes here. Did you receive any dividends? Normally that's if you have shares in a UK company, potentially overseas companies. So Santander, you might think is your UK bank account, but actually it's a foreign bank. So if you have any dividends in Santander, then potentially the answer is yes here if it was under £300. Did you receive any UK pensions or state benefits? Then possibly yes. So if you've had job seekers allowance, or you have a widower's pension, or you're actually receiving a pension, whether it's a state pension or a personal pension, then all that is taxable income. So you'd select yes here. Now, one that I really don't like asking people, if you have a child and it is of school age, then you potentially have been claiming the child benefit. But if you or your partner has income of over £50,000, then you start to lose some of that child benefit. When you get to earn £60,000, and when I say earn, that is a mixture potentially of PAYE gross income and your self-employment net profit, if that comes to more than £50,000, then you start to lose that benefit, and if it gets to more than £60,000, you've lost the whole lot and you have to repay it. Did you receive any other UK income? Well, it might be you've been made redundant from your PAYE job and you've had the standard redundancy package. You'd say yes in here and then justify what's happened to it from there. Any income tax losses? Well, it really doesn't affect us. And are you liable to pension savings tax charges? Again, most of my clients, the answer is no to that. It's basically if your employer has paid in over £40,000 into a pension pot, or you've had £40,000 come out of your company account for a pension, then potentially you have a pension savings tax charge. So click next. This is the final page of telling them what you've got. And this all relates to what you have now paid out. So if you've paid money to a personal pension or an annuity that is not via the auto-enrolment or via your employer's pension scheme, then you'd select yes, because you can get tax relief on any pension payments you have made. For people in the 20% tax bracket, it just expands that bracket, so you therefore pay slightly less tax as you earn more money. It's the same with charity. You need to declare if you've given any money to charity that has gift aid attached to it. Makes no difference if you're a 20% taxpayer. Does not affect your tax whatsoever. But if you're a 40% taxpayer, then again it increases the 20% tax band. So again, you can save money if you give to charity and you're a 40% taxpayer. Unfortunately, it works the other way around. If you don't pay tax and you have given to charity under a gift aid form, then unfortunately the taxman comes after you for the tax refund it's given to the charity. So just be careful when you do consider making money or sending money to charity. What is your tax status? If you or your partner or civil partner or spouse were born before the 6th of April 35, you can claim a married couple's allowance, which are for the older generation. So just tick that button there. It's normally given to the husband. Any other tax reliefs? Well, there's nothing that really comes up. The only one that people might think about is if they've given money to an EIS scheme, and that's where you can claim your deduction. Have you had any tax already refunded? So if you've already had a tax rebate from HMRC or the job centre's given you some rebate, then that's where you lob it in. Do you have a tax advisor? I'm an accountant. I don't think I'm a tax advisor. I don't advise people on what to do with their money. I will just do their tax returns. So I don't consider myself as a tax advisor. So that ends up as being no. Were you party to more tax avoidance schemes? Please say no. Definitely please say no. Unless you know you have been part of a tax avoidance scheme. And am I acting on behalf of somebody else? Well, if I do your tax return, the answer is no. If you do your tax return, the answer is no. But if you've got power of attorney and you've invoked it over the financial aspects, then yes, you might be completing this on somebody else's behalf. Having pressed yes and next, everything's automatically saved. Even if you came out of it, as soon as you've gone on to the next page, it's all saved. And this just gives you a summary of all the things you said yes to, and that's what it expects you to be able to enter the data. From the underpaid tax, etc. downwards, it's always the same for everybody, and that's in a different module.